With the F1 2025 season just around the corner, I decided to get a lot of information from a well known F1 source. And remember, liketh and subscribeth.
But yeah, 2025 then. So yeah, so Red Bull obviously they're one of the four teams that will be in the mix. It's a weird year at the top of the grid because there's a lot of driver changes, very notable driver changes. Obviously, the biggest one is the fact that Lewis Hamilton is going to be driving a Ferrari and not a Mercedes. So he's going to be partnering Charles Leclerc. Leclerc is one of the best drivers on the grid. I would say he is one of maybe two or three drivers at most that could take the race to Max Verstappen and win. Verstappen is still the class of the field, and in 2024, Lando Norris he was very much he has pace, but when it came to wheel-to-wheel racing and wheel-to-wheel combat, so to speak, Verstappen basically pulled his pants down and bullied Norris basically, just like USA, for instance, like Kota, just a complete dive bomb up the inside, and but Norris should have seen it coming. Like it's Verstappen, like he's going to go up the inside. Like and I imagine it's the same in NASCAR. Like you kind of know who you're racing and what the rules of engagement are when you race that person.
Yeah.
And that's Norris's big learning point. If he can manage to solve that, he has a chance this season because I think McLaren should be again very strong in this championship now with a full season under their belt, competing from the front. They only kind of began their season like round number 5 or 6 in Miami. So now again, I would say of the 4 teams that have a chance to compete, I would say Mercedes have the most to catch up on. Their kind of wins were a bit more circumstantial than I kind of relied on specific conditions, like how cool the car was and how the way the car reacts on particular track surfaces. Woo. So it can be very I have to up the difficulty. It can be very circumstantial, but they have the most to kind of make up, so to speak. But they'll be in the mix. They have a weird situation because obviously Hamilton left, and the driver they chose to replace Hamilton is a driver called Kimi Antonelli, and he's a very young driver, so he's a rookie. And getting into he's going to be obviously. I imagine he's not going to hit the ground running compared to his teammate George Russell. Ooh, a 79 Lotus. It's going to be difficult for him to start. So Russell, if the car is there for Mercedes, Russell's going to have a good chance to do very well because he drove very well last year, did Russell. So I think as a title protagonist, I would say Russell. I'm not sure he's quite there yet. I think he can be quite rattled under pressure. Let's go into a slower car this time. Let's go into Jordan. Oh, Narain Karthikeyan, the legend. Jordan was actually set up by Eddie Jordan, who is an Irishman.
Oh.
But by this time he'd sold the team. So, it was kind of this was the last year of Jordan as it was. It still exists now in the sense that it's now the Aston Martin team. It was just bought by a different. It still exists in principle. It just has a different name these days.
That's super interesting.
Sorry, go on.
No, I had I guess just because you started talking about rookies, I heard that there's going to be 6 overall in new rookies next year for F1. I might be lying.
No, that's right. Like it's a very entering 2024. There was like the grid wasn't changing. Like it was the first time ever in F1 where the grid was the same at the last race as it was entering the first race. So yeah, the fact that 6 rookies, it was a massive changing of the guard. Some drivers kind of just their time kind of expired in F1, like Daniel Ricciardo. Kind of just the end of the road. Kind of just their time kind of just came. Some drivers, like Kevin Magnussen's another example of that. Drivers who are kind of well established on the grid, their time just I guess everyone's got their expiration date, so to speak, and it was just happened to be for them. And other drivers, other teams decide to take a chance. Like Mercedes is taking a huge chance on Kimi Antonelli. It's
Hmm.
you don't get a situation too often where top teams take rookies on board. Like, look, when Ferrari took Leclerc on in year two, that was a shock. When McLaren took Hamilton in 2007, that was it was hard to see how that was going to go. So it's a big risk for to drop a rookie in a potentially front running car off the bat. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. But other rookies up and down the field, yeah, you've got a couple. Uh,
I
One I
heard.
really like is Bortoletto in the
Mhm.
Sauber. He'll be
I
one to
can't
watch.
remember who it was. I watched a video though that somebody was saying like, "Oh, this is gonna be the next Max Verstappen."
It
Was
probably was
exa-
Antonelli.
Antonelli.
Yeah, I think Antonelli, because that's the team principal of
But
Mercedes, Toto Wolff. He wants the quote next Verstappen because he
yeah,
famously missed on Verstappen on his
yeah,
own
that's
team.
that's what it was because that's what I heard is that he was so angry about missing Verstappen
Mm.
that he wanted somebody of similar caliber, basically. And
Yeah, and he didn't want to miss out on this one. So like he kind of had his when Hamilton told him he was leaving, he basically had his heart set like, yeah, I want Antonelli. So he's got him.
yeah, there's. It's funny when when there is that person, there's that Verstappen or whatever. There's like that thing of like, where is the next one? Where is the one that's gonna come again after that?
Mm.
And I feel like NASCAR is trying to do that too, where we have I can't remember his last name, but there's a Connor this next year that's going to be racing, I believe, for Trackhouse. Um, or yeah, I believe it's the third charter for Trackhouse that he's like going to be quote unquote the next Kyle Larson.
Mm.
And there's just that like obsession of like wanting more of that like high caliber driver.
It can be such a risk though, especially in something as just like as I guess niche or nuanced as NASCAR and Nova racing, that to drop a young driver in like that, I imagine it must be like a baptism by fire.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of, these are obviously F1 cars are extremely powerful, and there's a lot of systems to learn as well. So it is going to be a big test for Antonelli. But how he gets on is going to be fascinating because he's not the only inexperienced driver being landed in the top team. Red Bull very late on decided to chop Sergio Perez for 2025
Hmm.
and promote Liam Lawson instead. And Lawson is not my favorite driver. I think how he's ended up in F1 has been very uh, lucky in some regards, and the unique opportunity he's got at Red Bull alongside Verstappen is quite fortunate too. But this could be the case sometimes. You can just end up in the right place at at the right time for different reasons.
Hmm.
So comparing his season with Antonelli's season will be very interesting because they're both inexperienced drivers in top teams that has a chance to win races. So this is going to be fascinating from that point of view. It kind of what separates them a little bit in terms of, if you're talking about winning, titles and constructors titles, you look at McLaren and Ferrari and think, yeah, these two are likely going to be the ones again that are going to be the forerunners. Maybe not necessarily because the car may or may not be the fastest. It's going to be impossible to tell until we get to, the first race who's going to be, where the pecking order is. But they've got those two teams, McLaren and Ferrari, have got two drivers who are very, very strong in Norris and Piastri and Leclerc and Hamilton. And that should be enough to outweigh whatever Russell and Verstappen do versus their inexperienced teammates. So I imagine that's how it will go for the constructors, the team standings. I think it'll be Ferrari versus be Ferrari versus, oh, were you serious? Ferrari versus McLaren, as it was at the end of last year.
And that's about it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Why are you still here? Bye bye.